Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about the upcoming Blast from the Past event and what kind of plans I have and a little bit of an overview. If you don't know, this event is starting on November 10th. For me, it is 11 p.m. GMT +1, so whatever that is for you, just check it out on the website yourself. I'll link it down below. And this is going to include Sentinel and Lake of Kalandra league mechanics. In case you're not aware, these were the 3.18 league Sentinel and the 3.19 league Kalandra, Lake of Kalandra, with Sentinel overall being extremely beloved and Lake of Kalandra mostly being a little bit on the wayside, although that does also have to do with the patch that we had back then, not just with the league mechanics. Special about this event is that it is actually not voided. What that means is that it will get to standard after completion, so you can farm, for example, Recombinators, which is something that we haven't had in the game for a few patches, and you can then get it to standard. So for example, if you care about standard economy, that is a huge opportunity. Another not so small thing here is that on death, you don't lose 10%, you actually lose 50% of your XP. So especially if you want to go higher than like level 95, 96, you should definitely pack in a character that maybe isn't completely squishy. For me personally, Sentinel was my favorite league of all time, so I will definitely be playing until the very last second, and we're going to talk first a little bit about Sentinel and Lake of Kalandra. The gist of Sentinel is that you have these mechanical companions that whenever you press the button and activate them for a certain duration and a certain amount of monsters, they're going to get empowered around you, and those enemies will then drop more loot, and they also have a chance to drop certain reward tiles. So for example, the armor reward right here that you see on the Sentinel, you have prefixes, you have suffixes, you can recombine them. So as you can see up down here, it has a certain amount of uses, and once those uses are up, you will have to combine them with another Sentinel to recharge it. Once you've recharged it, you can use it again and over, but there's obviously a lot more to this. There's a whole Sentinel passive tree, so all I can really do for you in terms of Sentinel is I can link you to stuff down below, and that will be the Sentinel basics. Sir Gawk has a meta video about it as well that I will link you down below. Grim has a farming video. He also has a video on how to combine Sentinels efficiently. Now, also the Glacier farming strat, I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the video because that's what I'm going to do myself for the 1 week event. When it comes to Lake of Kalandra, it's all about this mirror tablet right here. It's sort of like a mini game. You have your entrance right here. You're basically making your own Lake of Kalandra, kind of like an Alva temple sort of. And you can fill these different tile sets with rewards. You have an entrance and you basically want to get as far away from the entrance as possible, because the further away you get from it, the more difficulty the encounters will have, but also the more rewards they will give you. You can also swap tiles around and all that good stuff. And once you are in the Lake of Kalandra yourself, you can reap all the benefits, like if you would do an Alva Temple, for example. But there's also more going on because you can actually mirror your jewelry, which is quite interesting. In general, also way too much for one video. I actually have like a 30-minute video right here where I go over all the basics. If you're interested, I will also link that down below. All right, with all of that out of the way though, what are my 2 goals for this 1 week event? If the event was longer, I would probably consider making more builds or having like more aspirational crafting goals or anything like that. But since it is only a 1 week event, what I want to do is test a league starter that I actually tested on stream recently over on twitch.tv/Palsteron, which is the Lightning Strike Poison Pathfinder. I haven't tested it enough to give you a final POB or even a guide or something maybe in the future, but this is kind of how it's going to look like on early gear. The one thing that I want to get across is that you don't need this poison dagger right here. If you guys don't know, pressurized dagger, there's 3 different bases of these. They all have all damage from hits with this weapon can poison, and that's how you make it so Lightning Strike can basically poison, and it is actually quite strong. It's also incredibly strong with Molten Strike, why that is in a potential build guide in the future. But the reason I want to test this is because a buddy of mine was actually league starting at this league, and he told me he got all the way to tier 16s with a Wasp Nest. So he was basically not even using any of the lightning damage from Lightning Strike, which kind of makes sense. If you're just scaling chaos damage, the fizz is kind of a by the by, then the lightning conversion is not really going to screw you as much. However, I didn't really believe it until I tried myself, and voila. With returning projectiles, I was actually quite surprised. Also, what we found out this league is that returning projectiles doesn't give you less damage for poison. We also found out that returning projectiles and Lightning Strike hits 4 times instead of 3 times. Everybody thought it was 3 times because 2 times projectile and the 1 melee hit, but it's actually 4 times. How realistic that is depends on how near you can be on the enemy, but either way, returning proj was a huge buff. And one of the reasons I want to try it as well is that it's just very comfortable to play. I played this build in 3.20 as an occultist, and I was, even though I had explosions, I was kind of missing a lot of things. And with Pathfinder having good defenses, which Occultist was way too squishy in my opinion, that now kind of changes, as well as that you can still get explosions from Asenath later. You have the poison proliferation, and on top of everything else, now you have returning projectiles, which means indoor maps are way more stomachable because it kind of bounces off of the walls. But yeah, I'll keep you up to date. If you want to watch this live over on twitch.tv/Palsteron, I'll be live whenever the league starts, and I'll probably be live quite a bit over the next week or so. But yeah, that's what I'm going to try. If it is good enough for max roll, I'm going to make a max roll guide. I'm going to make a YouTube guide, as always. In terms of builds, every league starter that is viable right now kind of goes, but there is an exception if you care about Sentinel, like I will, for example. And that is Sentinels have a certain way and a certain playstyle that you have to abide by. So the way red and blue Sentinels work, which are the meta strat, so to say, they're both very, very strong. The yellow one is a little bit eh. The blue one has an AoE. It has a short cast time of like, I think 1-ish second, or you can reduce it around about 1 second. And once you press it, then everything around you gets empowered. And the red one just empowers, it like zaps out and empowers. It has like 115 charges, so 115 enemies get empowered. The blue one usually empowers a lot more. But important is that you don't kill the mobs before they get empowered, because otherwise you don't get anything back. That means all the damage that you cannot control yourself, that's usually very cozy, right? You shouldn't be playing if you want to do Sentinels efficiently. I'm just saying you this because at the start of Sentinel, a lot of people didn't know that, me included. I had a totem build, which was fine, because if you don't put down your totem, it's all good. But there is, for example, minion builds where you can't really avoid it, and people were very, very disappointed and re-rolled out of their builds. It is possible to kind of get like around it, but why would you? It's very, very annoying. But once again, if you don't care about Sentinel, you do you. Auto bomber builds are the same way, something like Herald of Thunder. Now, if you have auto bomber builds where you can control your damage, or you have like BV, for example, where you just don't activate it, you just don't do Winter Orb and stuff like that, but that also kind of defeats the purpose of auto bomber builds. So at that point, do you really want to do that? I don't know. Yeah, whatever you want. Same thing goes for RF. You can just not activate it until you did all the Sentinel stuff. You can wear a flask that removes your RF if you want to, but that sounds very annoying, right? And the upside of these builds are usually that they're very cozy. So taking that away, what's actually left? But that's up to you. This is just a little bit of a small tip. But in terms of farming, what will I do? I will try and farm as many Recombinators as possible. As you guys know right now, Recombinators are not in the base game. On Standard, they already crashed when this got announced. They are not really farmable, so they're very sought after on Standard. Very strong crafting currency. And I just want to farm as many as possible because that's what I did back then, and that's what I had so much fun with in Glaciers, which we're going to talk about right now. And we basically have a little bit of a competition with some buddies, and we're just going to see who can farm more out in a week. And in order to do that, we'll be using my Glacier strat from back in the day. 3.18 Sentinel and Go is how I called it, kind of. And the idea behind this strat is basically to make the most out of Sentinels. Sentinels are completely busted when compared to most other mechanics in the game. So how does it work? You're basically popping into the map. You're going in. Glacier has a very high density in a very small area right at the start. It's completely packed. It has around about 500 to I think 1,000-ish mobs, which is way more than enough for you to pop your red Sentinel, pop your blue Sentinel, and just get insane rewards. After you did that, you're going to immediately pour it out and do it all over again. It might sound a little bit boring, but I can tell you right now, it's not going to be boring when you see the loot explosions. You don't have to do the boss, so you can do it on a lot of builds. Do note, though, that on higher empowerment, some of these Sentinel encounters can get a little bit rough, so you definitely want to farm up a decent-ish character before you do this. Now, in order to do this strat, you have to know how to combine Sentinels, which, I mean, if you're playing the event, you might as well learn Sentinels, I guess, but you can either check out Grim's video or my video. This video contains all of this in one package. If you want to, you can also check out different videos, but I have it all in here, how to combine them, how to sort them, a reward tier list. We actually have a new one. So 2 things here that actually changed a little bit I want to discuss right here in this video, and that is the Sentinel passive tree. If you guys don't know, Sentinel came with a new passive tree because of course they have a passive tree. So we have to talk about that one in a second, and then also the Sentinel reward tier list changed quite a bit as well. But first up, for the Sentinel passives, you can follow what I'm saying here to a T. However, one thing that you do not want to replicate that I did back then is the node that I took down here. I think it's right here. Rewards are more likely to be less common types. You got to understand that Sentinel rewards, as strong as they are actually not rare. They're quite common, right? Recombinators are not that rare. This reward type is now the S tier reward type, now that recombinators are not in the base game anymore, and now you want them. Back then, they were like dropping like candy. Everybody was like, oh, recombinators, like 10C each, I guess, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, they're going to be gone after the league, up to like 1 divine. In standard, up to like 4 or 5 divines at some points, right? So if you're farming for that, and if you want recombinators, do not pick this node. This node costs you 2 of these thingies right here. You should probably put them into some other points. Another thing here I want to mention while we're at the Sentinel tree is, I already explained this in the video, but I just want to remind you, this is the most important node on your Sentinel tree. It will make it so normal Sentinels will get transformed into Magic Sentinels, giving you way more juice. And one of the biggest things about mapping in Sentinel or this event is going to be having a pool of Sentinels, so you don't have to run the shitty ones. The difference between a good and a bad Sentinel is crazy, absolutely insane. Now, do note it's a known bug that some of the Sentinels are still going to drop normal. I don't know what that is, but just know that most of them are going to be transformed to Magic. And then the second thing I want to talk about is the reward tier list will change for this event. So back then, Expedition Scarabs were top-notch. Sentinel were also very strong. And then A tier, you had like this and whatnot. This changes completely, and there's a few important ones here. Sentinel rewards are now going to be key. This is what everybody's going to be going for. So not only is Sentinel rewards now S tier, also chance to add rewards is as well. Now this mod right here, I had listed in B tier because it mostly gives you common reward types. It is weighted. But Sentinel is common, so now that Sentinel is like the end-all be-all, this is actually very good, and you get quite a good chance to add rewards. If you don't know though, Sentinels inherently have a chance to grant you rewards. It's like, I don't know, like 5-ish% chance or something like that, or maybe a little bit less. But this adds to that. It can go up to 30% on top. So this mod, in my opinion and my estimation, will now be the new S tier. However, if it says chance to get extra Sentinel rewards, that is still GG and is still the #1 mod that you're looking for. And then A tier, I'm not even going to bother with the rest of them, but I'll just say, I think A tier will be Expedition, Div card currency, and Blight. Expedition will be nice currency to get your build together early. Div cards, a lot of stacked decks. Currency is actually quite decent, especially early. I would actually advise you, if you get currency Sentinels early, you should definitely use them ASAP. You're going to get some nice alts, some nice alks. And then I also think Blight's going to be quite big, simply because I don't think that many people are going to do Blight, and still everybody needs their Anoint. Most people are going to focus on the league mechanics that we have only for a week, right? So Blight will be underrepresented, and then, well, oils might actually be worth something because it's not like the hunger for anoints goes away. Another thing that changed is the Atlas itself, right? It's different from 3.18, so that is outdated in the video. What I can tell you is Glacier is now tier 13, right? And you only need 1 Watchstone to actually play it. You don't need any Sextants, no nothing to make it tier 16. It just needs to be at least tier 14 so you can actually get credit for Searing Exarch. Now, you're going to be ping-ponging between 2 maps. If you can afford buying Glaciers and only do Glaciers, that's totally fine. I used to do it with Marshes because it was really bad. Now, Mausoleum is actually a lot better. So, first up, Mausoleum is very good because you can't get boss rewards because the boss didn't spawn yet, which is very good, and you're not killing the boss. So, you kind of just pop in and do your thing. You will get no boss altars, which will make the altar stuff in general a lot better. So you just have to kind of ping pong between. Obviously, Glacier, you want to run as many as possible, but if you have to, you're going to run Mausoleum. And then the passive tree also changed quite a bit ever since then, but the idea didn't really. Just a few points are now invalidated, right? So everything I'm going to do here is about Wandering Path. If you already know these kind of trees, you know them all, basically. You just get all the quant, all the chance for duplication on maps, and you want exactly enough of these adjacent map drop points so you can get a total of 100% chance for monsters to drop an additional connected map. Sustaining Glaciers like this, even with Singular Focus, is going to be a little rough. You would have to buy some, but most of the people are just going to couple it together with Mausoleums. Unless, I mean, the game changed quite a bit, right? I don't know, the map sustain, right? Like what mobs drop, everything got overhauled, so I really cannot tell you enough. I can just tell you that I take some of the extra 1 tier higher nodes, right? And then red altars, because I think they're going to be better early. You're not really going to need the quant from blue altars. I'm not going to farm all my points. It's a 1-week event. I'm not going to unlock everything. These are the 116 points that make sense. Everything above, you can do whatever you want. You even can cut the heist stuff. I mostly want to farm maybe the heist dagger later, or I want to sell contracts, blueprints. I don't even know if people are going to do them, right? So this is also completely up to you. All you need to know is the usual wandering path shell. And then when it comes to growing hordes, my idea here was I'm not going to seek them out. There's nobody who's going to have like bulk in such a short event, maybe some people, but I'm not going to seek them out. It's just, it's 1 point. If I drop any rusted or polished or gilded, I'm not going to sell them because I'm never going to get to bulk. I'm just going to throw them in and get some extra pack size for my sentinels. And if you're wondering, the reason I didn't include the map effect nodes up top, which is usually a no-brainer on Wandering Path, is it's a 1 week event. Your character is probably not going to be very strong from the get-go, and these make the map a lot harder. And trust me, these on top of Sentinel will make your maps and your life in general very, very hard. So if your build is strong enough, definitely take them. You can respec the heist nodes, or if you have all your 132 points, you know what to do. So yeah, those are basically just the changes from the video that I wanted to point it out. Everything else here, I think, is still up to date. Once again, if they didn't change something, which historically I think we're safe. They usually don't put that much effort into their events. Now, another tech item that is very important to Sentinel in general is Cloak of Tom Eiley, or whatever you pronounce it at. Don't add me. This body armor here is very innocent, but it says found magic items drop identified. This is important for 2 reasons. The first one being that sentinels will be unidentified, meaning you can actually filter for the mods. And since we just talked about it earlier, all your normals will be upgraded to magics. You're gonna have a lot of magics. And having to pick them all up, put them all in a stash tab, or un-ID them is so much time. This is an absolute time saver for that. And the second and even more important reason is that the crafting methods with the combinators needs a lot of bases and like specific mods. So even magic items can be really strong if they have like a +1, a tier 1 spell suppression, plus free max fire res, whatever you need for your build, and you can recombine it into other item and then get all the mods that you want together. So magic items will be in demand. Those specific items will be in demand, and having magic items on Indeed, you're never going to pick up a magic item. So this is pure upside, and you would be very surprised, especially if you're magic finding. This is an incredible chest because you're getting so much un-ID'd stuff. You throw it in a quad tab and you're literally selling stuff for like 40C to a divine that are just magic items. I think this chest at its peak was around about 20 divines in Sentinel League, so I'm just going to point that out. It is very, very strong. However, do not forget that maybe, I mean, it is just a 1 week event, right? Maybe you're not even going to make use of this, right? Maybe you should rather make your build stronger, because, I don't know, it depends on how long it takes you to settle everything up. Then you have to sacrifice your chest armor, get even weaker. You have to maybe get Quant on top or something, and then you can maybe play for 3-4 days. It is a little bit weird, so I'm not really sure if you should go for this body armor, but still very, very neat and a lot of quality of life, and also an item to keep in mind. Now, this item cannot be chanced. You can't drop it normally. It only comes from Elrion reward rooms from the Syndicate hideouts. So you have to farm Betrayal, get Elrion, and it doesn't really matter. It just has to be not intervention. Now, it isn't stated here, and I'm not 100% sure anymore if you actually need a certain tier or if you need him as your master. I'm not really sure if there's other restrictions. There's nothing here, and I can't remember. Maybe somebody in the comments knows down below. But yeah, definitely an interesting item to keep in mind. But yeah, that's about it for me for this event. I will be playing it over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. I'll be online 2 hours before the event starts, and I'm probably going to be online all week. Once again, definitely check out the stuff I linked to down in the description. A lot of people made very, very good info, so use it. Maybe do at least a little bit of research. Going in completely blind into double league mechanic that you only have 1 week to figure out, probably not the best idea. And if you already know the leagues, but you still need a refresher, definitely do so. I forgot a lot of things. I had to watch my own video on stream, which was very, very weird, but I got through it. But otherwise, you can also ask me over on stream if you want to. But with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.